Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. Today we are talking about Immaculate Conception. No, let me stop. We're talking about radical conception. So, we're going to be talking about this hot topic that is going around right now, talking about Aubrey Marcus, Vylana, and Alana's relationship. It's good to be back on TikTok. Last time I live streamed here, I got banned. So I'm going to try to behave today. But this was a topic that I put up on my Instagram. What topics do people want to hear me talk about this week? This came up. I did a poll, and it was close between this and talking about my trip. But the drama prevails, as we know. Sex sells. So here we are to talk about radical monogamy. So, what is radical monogamy according to Aubrey Marcus? It's an expanded monogamy. It's a monogamy not of just two, a monogamy of more than two. And what makes this, and actually, let me get a quote because they brought their doctor onto the podcast as well. Their doctor, I think his name is Mark Gaffin or something like that. And I don't know, I've heard a bunch of things that this guy has a whole bunch of allegations and stuff against him. Oh, look, the comments are there. Cool, cute. So, let's see. He said, the doctor that they brought on to validate their bullshit was, if some people during the election thought that Kamala Harris was saying word salad, then you need to watch this doctor because there is no salad that is more heavily dressed than this doctor's analysis of what is going on in this relationship with two of his top clients, Aubrey and Vylana. So he said, this is radical monogamy in the field of erotic mystics. Huh? Just call it what it is. It's okay to be polyamorous if that's what's aligned for you. Although, after watching this podcast, we're going to break down some things. And I wonder, is this really what's aligned for everybody in the mix? Now, I have a little theory about why Aubrey does not want to call this polyamory. And that means we have to go a little into his past. So, as some of you might know, because he's talked about it a lot, is that he lived a polyamorous life before meeting his wife, Vylana. So, for about 7 or 8 years, he was with a woman, Whitney Miller, and they were monogamous. He had desires outside of the relationship, so he asked her to be polyamorous. She said, nope. So they broke up. And then he started to explore some things with other people. And then they came back together and decided to come back together as a polyamorous relationship. During that time, he met Vylana. And Vylana said, no, I'm not going to be one of your many girlfriends. And so he decided to give up polyamory to marry Vylana, which within 2 weeks they proposed, and then they got married at nowhere else other than Burning Man. So then this is how he really positioned himself to be, and their relationship, as many of us in the spiritual community. You said you're starting to think that Marcus is an agent. I don't think he's any type of agent. I think he's just egoic as fuck. And this whole getting a voice from God thing as to why you need to impregnate multiple women, we'll get into that. We've heard that before. We've heard that many, 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 many times before, like with Joseph Smith in Mormonism. So Joseph Smith, who created Mormonism, said that God told him that he was meant to have multiple wives and that it was actually a divine mandate, part of his purpose. And then we had the FLDS, which I'm sure you guys saw the documentary about this cult. And that was also a voice of God told this man to marry 79 women, most of which who were young and pure and underage. And we'll get into that too. 'Cause there was a lot of that. I don't know if you guys have watched the podcast. So, first I wanna start by saying when I first heard about Aubrey and Vylana going, basically into a throuple and opening up their relationship and becoming polyamorous, I was initially triggered, but at the same time, I also felt like, well, I've changed as a person. I want other people to be able to hold the space for me to continue to change. I wanna hold the space for other people to be able to change. All of us have changed so much in our lives. I mean, most of the people that you said we've heard it from Nick Cannon. That's right. That is right. So, yeah, and probably Elon Musk and many other people who wanna have babies with a lot of people. But when I first heard about this, I was triggered because, Aubrey and Vylana, even though you guys know I've kind of been a little bit of a hater on Aubrey recently. I talked about it on the podcast with Brittany Bento, which Brittany did a great video on this Aubrey Marcus situation, and I'm gonna reference some of the things that she talked about later. Now, someone said that I talked shit about him on my podcast with Chelsea, which I don't remember, but I don't doubt it. And then also, as you guys know, when I came back from Peru from doing ayahuasca, it was something that came up in my journey was I was kind of triggered by him filming an ayahuasca ceremony in that same maloca that I was in. And that Mother Aya told me, like, don't judge other messengers. There's a message for everybody. And this is not your messenger, but there are people who Aubrey's their messenger. So don't judge him filming in an ayahuasca ceremony, even if I think that that's not something that is right to do. So this topic has come up many times. I'm not surprised by where we're at now, but they really have positioned themselves as basically like um, a power couple and a kind of like something to look up to in the spiritual community. And I know a lot of people, a lot of women and men in the spiritual community have looked at Aubrey and Vylana's relationship as really like an idea of what's possible because they're both successful, good looking, rich, living in their purpose, doing whatever they want, going to Egypt and going here and going there and starting all of these spiritual businesses and having all of this like fun with their friends and creating this spiritual community that is aligned and they're teaching other people these things. So they really have positioned themselves as an icon in a spiritual space. And even years ago, when I had first seen them talk about their relationship, I was like, you know what? Like, that's really nice. I would love to have a relationship like that one day where these two people are like individuals. They're both on their path, but then they're both aligned and together. And they're both like supporting each other in this way. And they're both like deeply into the work and to the spirituality, and that they're able to grow and heal together. And a lot of people I know have used them as an example for the type of aligned partnership that they want. So for them to come out as polyamorous, which they refuse to say, radical monogamy, as they're calling it, with this edited language and this spiritual bypassing language, a lot of people were devastated by this because it's kind of like, well, damn, even being hot. Vylana is like 10 across the board of everything, like every category that someone could be ranked on. She's a 10 out of 10. And like, even that is not enough, which is that the message? No, but that can trigger that feeling because a lot of people have the wound around not being enough. And that really triggers the not enough wound because then you're like, well, damn. It's kind of like when people are like, well, Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce and J-Lo gets cheated on and this one gets cheated on. Then it's almost like, fuck, is there like, could you ever get to the point that you're enough for somebody? So thank God that you know, I'm getting married in a couple weeks. I have my husband. I'm so grateful that I'm in a relationship right now that is aligned and that because if this news would have come out months ago, I would have been more triggered because I already felt that these things were not possible, that these things were not available. And then thank God I have a real life example and I'm living it right now. But had I not, It's giving conscious uncoupling. You know what? Don't bash conscious uncoupling because I did the course, actually. I did the conscious uncoupling course by myself after I had been brutally cheated on and, whatever. My ex got addicted to drugs and became possessed and got someone else pregnant and all of the other stuff that happened. You guys know the story. And when that all happened, I did the conscious uncoupling course on my own. It was obviously not a mutual thing that happened. But that shit was good, okay? The conscious uncoupling was I know that it's so spiritual bypassy language, but the course itself was pretty legit. So, with all of that, I get why a lot of people are triggered. But the way that I kind of initially saw it was like, you know what? I want to hold the space for people to be able to change. And just because I'm holding them in this light of like, this is a good couple or an aligned couple, even though we had seen the cracks coming for a while, those of us following, I still wanted to be like, I want people in my life to hold space for me to change. I want to hold space for other people to change. So why can't we hold space for people on the internet to change? And that's something that's very difficult. A lot of times, if we already have someone in a box, we don't want them to go out of that box because it makes us uncomfortable. And yeah, we're uncomfortable. Anne is asking what cracks. So about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe a little longer, maybe 6 months ago, Aubrey and Vylana did a podcast, the 2 of them, with this same doctor, who this doctor's a menace. I can't stand this doctor. Doctor Word Salad was, they did a podcast with him and talking about their relationship and basically they had spent some time apart, and I didn't watch the whole thing, I only saw some clips from it. So, about 6 months ago, they talked about how they have been basically, fighting to keep the relationship together and that they've been separating and coming back and that they're working on it. Now, because I didn't watch that whole podcast, I didn't know anything about if there was any information about them being polyamorous. Now, what's interesting is now I actually listened to the podcast because I was in Bali. I didn't listen to it. I came back home and I did. I'm super jet lagged. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I ended up watching this Aubrey Marcus podcast with his wife, his girlfriend, and his doctor. And now I have much stronger feelings about it because I was kind of like, I want to hold the space for everybody to be able to grow. You said Dr. Mark is creepy. Yeah, he is. And yeah, it says a lot about Aubrey. Oh, he gives me the creeps, yeah. This one. He says it says a lot about Aubrey. No matter what he has, he needs more. Yeah, I agree. And um, so basically, I watched the podcast and my initial thoughts, they start off with how Aubrey was polyamorous until he met Vylana. Vylana was not down to do that shit. So then he left polyamory, pretty much kind of denounced it, kind of did a Doreen Virtue of like all the stuff. He didn't go that hard as Doreen Virtue, but it was a little Doreen Virtue. And so he basically has said in a lot of interviews over the years how poly doesn't really work and that it was like a good experience, but that basically, what he says is that when he was with Whitney, he was around town putting his dick in everything. But then once Whitney got some, he crumbled and couldn't handle the polyamory anymore. Because this is what happens a lot of times. Because similar thing with cheaters. The worst thing you could do to a cheater is cheat on a cheater. They hate that. So the worst thing you could do to someone who's polyamorous is be polyamorous back to them and actually do what they're doing. And so Aubrey was like wrecked by this. And he's talked about this in the past that once Whitney, started sleeping with other men, he was glitching out. So he's talked a lot about how like polyamory like doesn't really work. So I think that's why they're refusing to say polyamory, which is why they're calling it radical monogamy in the field of erotic mystics. Huh? And then he said, like, it's not the monogamy of two, it's expanded monogamy. It's the monogamy of more than two. And okay. But what this shows me, the fact that he went back to the old behavior, but is editing the language to not be the old behavior is showing the lack of accountability. Because if someone is wrong about something, if let's say he lived as a polyamorous life and then now he wants to go back to polyamory after kind of saying polyamory wasn't for him, then what you say is, you know what? I was wrong. And actually, this is more aligned for me. And this is more who I am. And when I said that I wanted monogamy, and when I said that there was the one and that you can be completely fulfilled with one person, I was wrong. But the fact that he instead will edit the language instead of admitting or going back on what he said is the first red flag. The other first red flag, right, when the podcast starts is, oof, you guys know the old saying, right? How you get them is how you lose them. So, like, that's why, like, if, you're like a side piece for someone, they'll end up leaving you for the side piece, is what they say. Or as Aubrey calls it, lovership. This is another one of the editing of the words that was so ridiculous in the podcast. Instead of just saying like side piece or like Vylana was fucking this other dude, Josh, it was Vylana's lovership. Oh, Vylana and Alana both had loverships. Say what it is. It's a fling. It's fucking around. It's a side piece. It's, you know? So the editing of the language, even, okay, so that's the one thing is that the reason he became this way was because Vylana didn't want to be polyamorous. Now he's pushing Vylana to be polyamorous, even though this was what she initially came into the relationship saying, absolutely not. What you're doing now is not for me. So she came into this with, that's a hard limit for me. And what was so sad is watching this podcast, like that literally made me sick, was like a lot of, so honestly, Vylana was like the most honest person on the whole podcast. Was like, she was very honest and she spoke very like openly. And she said that like, this relationship has constantly pushed her boundaries. But what is really sad that I see in like the conscious communities, which are actually very unconscious when we look at the actual behavior, what we see in a lot of these communities is that like lower vibration emotions are like they don't belong here. They don't belong in the human experience if you're evolved. So like Vylana talking about like how this is like triggered her, made her jealous, made her trigger all her wounds and like all of her like all she wanted, and she's talked about throughout their relationship is part of the thing that was healed by being with Aubrey, is that she was finally fully chosen and that there wasn't cheating, there wasn't other women, and that she was finally the only one and that she was finally married and finally safe. So this is why everybody is kind of ruptured by this situation. And so, first of all, that's sad. But then the language editing that is needed to be around evolved people is that now they're editing the language to say, oh, well, my jealousy is coming from my wounds. And like, they're really framing that, like, if you don't want your partner to have a baby with another woman while you're together, that this is your unhealed wounds. And then she's like talking about how basically this situation has pushed her to face her fears, her worst fear that continues to happen. Her, we talk about healing. You have like this initial wound, and then it's like a spiral. And then each time you meet this wound again in another part of life. And so she keeps meeting this wound from past relationships. She talks about how it was with her sister first, with like kind of being like feeling like unchosen or like a second person coming in when her sister was born. And it's the same issue from new heights each time. But the way that she frames it is that, like, oh, this is forcing me to have to get over my jealousy. This is forcing me to face my fears. This is forcing me to have to be completely free because now nothing can hurt me. And it's just like, is that really I don't know what this person's saying. But is this like actually the truth? Is it actually unhealed parts of yourself that don't want your uh, spouse to be with other people? And, after the podcast, there was a big backlash on all sides. People super pissed off at Aubrey. People really like pushing Vylana, like, do not do this, get out of this, like, you're lying to yourself. And she posted, and like I said, Vylana is very honest and very like, she speaks genuinely. Now, if she's lying to herself, that's another thing, but she's speaking how she feels. And so she puts this really long post on social media, which I really appreciated because, she really like addressed a lot of different things and it was very honest and heartfelt. But one thing that she says in that post is about how she knows that she's meant to be the mother of Aubrey's children, and that in some past life in Egypt, she chose not to have a life with him, and that basically this is like some unhealed karma because she didn't choose that life with him then. So now she needs to kind of like heal and complete the cycle, and that her greatest service to humanity is going to be to have Aubrey's children. And you guys know, I'm so sick of this shit in the spiritual community. It's like, oh my God, I've been trying to bust this nut since Egypt. Like, enough. Say what it is. Like, come on. This is sexual. And listen, I'm no person to be talking about sexual purity. If you guys have gotten my book, which I know a lot of you have, I'm the last person to talk about sexual purity. This isn't about purity. This is about just say what it is. Just say what it is. And it's like, oh my God, you gave me blue balls in Atlantis, and I've been trying to come ever since. Like, I'm sick of this. I'm so sick of the past life bullshit in this community. Why can't people just say what it is? You're horny. Everybody's hot as hell. You're on drugs. You're a psychonaut. Like, everybody's on drugs. You guys are all hot and freaking fit. Everybody's wearing pasties to Burning Man and is on MDMA. Say what it is. It doesn't need to be, oh, I fucked you in Atlantis and we didn't get to have that baby, so let's have the baby now. Or like, oh my God, you sucked my dick in the halls of Amenti and I've been waiting for you ever since. Like, I'm sick of it. Enough is enough. I'm so tired of this. Oh, you didn't have a life with Aubrey in Egypt, so now you need to do it now. Why didn't you have a life with Aubrey in Egypt? Because he had a bunch of concubines? Because of course he was a pharaoh, and of course you were a queen, and of course another queen, because there's so many queens, right? Yeah, that's how this stuff works. Okay. Enough is enough. I'm so tired. You said I don't think that's proper to do in the halls. Well, speaking of sacred spaces, so those of you who have watched the podcast, Aubrey then says that he was in Egypt last year, 2024, not in 35 BC, but this time, in this lifetime, he was in Egypt and he was with Alana, Vylana, Matthias De Stefano, a bunch of other people who are all these big names in this spiritual community. They're all there doing their like initiation and all this stuff. It's beautiful, sure. So, bring all of your girlfriends, right? And so they go to the temple of Isis, the most sacred of the sacred. And this is when Aubrey gets a voice. Actually, did I write it down? Did I write down the actual? No, I don't think I did. I wanted to write down the actual quote because he's like, the sanctum of the sanctorium. It was the holiest of the holy. And I got a message that I heard that was as clear as day, was any clearer than anything that had ever come through to me. And the goddess Isis herself told me, the man in the situation. Of course, the goddess talks to the man, right? No, the goddess doesn't talk to all of the goddesses in the situation and all the women. the women who will be holding these babies. But then the goddess Isis speaks to me clear as day and says, you must impregnate both of these women. Oh, come on. Come on. I can't. This is the most ridiculous shit that I've ever heard. Now, sidetrack for a second. Something that I've been saying, because you know I'm a victim of this. What spirit says is not always the truth, okay? Just because you got to download a message from spirit, Mother Ayahuasca tells you you're a lesbian, doesn't mean it's true, okay? I know this firsthand. And I came out here and told all you guys. I came out here on the Tuesday Night Live saying, ayahuasca told me I'm a lesbian, and now I'm getting married to a man. So listen, what spirit tells you is not always the truth. Sometimes spirit is telling you something that you're sorting out in your own head, or something that or it's just you, or it's a mental game. I've had other experiences since then in meditation where information has come forward. And then I'm also like, hold on, I need to have discernment right now because I already got some evidence that what spirit says isn't always the truth. So, someone who's done as much psychedelics as Aubrey, I believe, should know by now that not always everything that spirit says is true. Someone saying the trickster, it could be a trickster spirit, or it could just be yourself. And now, as we know, like I said, um, John Smith of Mormonism got the same message from God that you must have multiple wives and impregnate multiple people. The guy, David Berg, who created the Children of God, got a message from God that you should have multiple partners and that a lot of them should be children and pure. The FLDS got the divine mandate from God that they should have multiple wives and that some of them should be pure. So let's get into this other girl, Alana. So Alana is like Vylana light, right? So it's like a very younger version. Oh, let me see if I have the picture here. I have a picture of them, which she literally looks like their daughter. Like she literally looks like their daughter. Let me see if I have this photo. When I saw this, I was like, this is crazy. This looks like, where is it? I thought I saved it here. Because when I saw this, I was like, okay, hold on. Okay. Hold on. You're going to like this. It's going to be worth the wait. It's going to be worth the wait. Okay. So this is the picture that they posted. Not only is this the hierarchy of their relationship, right? Aubrey at the top of the pyramid, Vylana, the bottom bitch second, and then now we have the girlfriend. So not only is this the hierarchy of the relationship, if you look, and I know Alana is like 27 or 28 years old, so I'm not saying she's a teenager, but she does look very young. She was a Brandy Melville model. So this person literally looks like the teenage child of Aubrey and Vylana, which is a little weird. But I'm not gonna yeah, she looks like their kid. But and also that, like, weird placing of photos of, like, this weird hierarchy of the power pyramid, as we know. There's always the pyramid of power in every kind of culty situation. But let's get into the Alana girl because, a lot of people are kind of, like, a little bit villainizing the third party here, but, I mean, I'm not villainizing either of the women. And, part of that is because, I support women's rights and wrongs, okay? But, um, so when Alana talks about how this ended up happening okay, let's go back one second because then we're gonna talk about how Alana came into the picture. So Aubrey was working out in the gym in Miami. They were both on Raya. So Raya is like a Tinder, Bumble type thing for like famous people, but it's actually not for famous people. I used to be on Raya years ago. Um, and it has like a bunch of people on there. Like you see like John Mayer and like a whole bunch of just like random people on there. I never really got that into it. It was like a friend of mine was on it and she like recommended me. So then that's how I became a member. And I was more like for the curiosity of it. But I was like, who's on here? Like, and then I tried to screenshot someone and then it was like gives you a notification and they're like, you're not allowed to screenshot. And I was like, oh shit. Because I was gonna send to someone. I'm like, oh, look who's on here. And no. So everybody says like, this person is saying you're famous, just call it what it is. First, no, not really. But also, this was a long time ago when I only had 2,000 followers. I was just a lot hotter then. Okay. I was just a lot hotter then, is what it was. Um, so, yeah, that was a long time ago when I used to do modeling. And obviously, models like Alana get on. You said you're on Netflix. I know because they stole my image and never paid me for it. I need to put that on my resume that I'm on Netflix, even though I tried to sue them for it. Okay. So I know that was messed up that they did that. Anyway, so Raya, yeah, it's for hot people and rich people and famous people or just people who are connected and networking and have famous or rich friends. That's what it is. And there's a plenty of like it's a whole bunch of people on there like Diplo and people like that. So, Aubrey and Vylana are on Raya. And then Aubrey's working out in the gym. They're in Miami. They've been talking about bringing a third person into the relationship. And then the voice of God comes into Aubrey's mind while he's working out, pumping iron, and he says, "Go on Raya right now." God opens the gates and says, "Aubrey, go on Raya right now. Someone important is on there." And then he stops his workout and takes out his phone and starts swiping and matching on Raya, just like, in the Bible, right? Didn't Abraham, the origin of a lot of people are saying like this is against God. I don't know, read the Bible. Because Abraham had a wife and then had a baby with a concubine, but let's call it what it is, right? A lovership, not a concubine. And so he goes on, matches with Alana, and he sends this message that says, "Oh, this is gonna sound woo woo, but I just got like a voice that told me I needed to come on Raya and that I was gonna meet someone important." And then she says, "Oh, I live in the woo woo," which is an indicator if she is woo woo. You said, "Is this a show?" No, this is real life. This is real life. Um, and so she says, "I live in the woo woo." So if she's someone who's spiritual, she most likely knows who Aubrey Marcus is. And so then she starts telling her story of what happened. So she said she just signed up for Gaia. I mean, uh, Gaia, right? I'm getting mixed up with the toxic platforms, but no, she messes up for Raya, signs up for Raya. And then so on Raya, she says she just signed up one day before. And now she matches with Aubrey Marcus. And I don't think it's that divine, okay? A girl that hot on Raya, let me tell you, she matched with everybody. She didn't just match with Aubrey Marcus. Let me tell you how this app works. That hot girl came on that app one day and she probably had 100 matches. She probably matched with every single person that she swiped on. So I don't think this is some big divine intervention of, oh my God, I just got here and you were here and it was all the stars lined up. Like she probably matched with every single man on that app. Of course they swiped on her. Hello. And so she matches with Aubrey and then she says, "Oh, I live in the woo woo." So most likely she already knows who Aubrey is. And then she says that leading up to this point, when she got on Raya that day, that fine day, when God intervened. She said that she had just gotten out of a relationship that she had been in for a couple years and that she had just left modeling. So she was feeling very lost. So this is something interesting to keep in mind. This model in Miami has recently just left the modeling industry and has recently just gone through a breakup. Now, let's be honest here. Let's not use the flowery words. Obviously, she was probably dating a rich guy before this, right? She wasn't just dating some regular dude. She wasn't in Miami as a model dating a regular ass Joe, right? So most likely she was dating some type of rich guy and was probably looking for another rich guy because let's be honest here. This is the truth of the situation, right? Now, you know me, I'm an investigator, so I did have to scroll all the way back on her Instagram and find out who her ex-boyfriend was. And yes, he was very luxurious life that he was providing for her according to the photos. So very luxurious life that he was providing around the world, all the five-star hotels, all the stuff. So she was coming out of a relationship with someone who was providing a very high lifestyle for her. She doesn't say that on the podcast. One, it's obvious to have common sense. I've lived in LA for how long to know how this goes. But then also, um, you can scroll back far enough and see it on her Instagram. So she was dating a rich guy who was providing this crazy lifestyle, and now she's feeling lost. Now, some famous rich guy of the spiritual community is saying that God sent him. Okay. Now let's get to the fucking doctor. So this Dr. Mark is saying that the thing that was ridiculous. So this Dr. Mark is like, I just want to make clear with his word salad. He's like, I just want to make clear that all of you would be doing this if you were poor. First of all, why are you bringing that up? We know why you're bringing that up because it's not true. Would they all be doing this if they were poor? Would some hot 20-year-old model who dates wealthy, borderline sugar daddy men be in a throuple with a couple that is falling apart, that isn't rich and famous? Would all of these beautiful women be dealing with Aubrey's shit if he wasn't rich and famous? I don't know. But the fact that the doctor says multiple times they would be doing this if they were poor. If they were poor, they'd all do this. You wouldn't be there if they were poor. What the fuck are you talking about, doc? You wouldn't be there if they were poor. None of you would be there if you were poor. Enough is enough. Like, stop the nonsense. So now you said someone, you're glad someone else is asking too. What? Who these people are? If you don't know who Aubrey Marcus is, then consider yourself lucky. Then consider yourself lucky. Alana said, oh yeah, right. That was true, right, Beverly? So Alana said Aubrey was at her age limit, but she's 29 and looks 19. So in these like dating apps, you can put your age limit. So like you only want to date people between this age bracket, and then you have a filter. And she says part of the reason that it was so divine is because Aubrey in 1 month was going to be too old to be in her age limit. So if this would have happened even a month later, he would have been aged out of her thing. I'm like, yeah, really grandfathered in, huh? So how old is Aubrey? I think he's 44. You said you didn't know who these people were prior to this happening. Well, this definitely impacted the community in this way. You said you can't get on Raya if you're poor. Exactly, Ash. They wouldn't have even met if they were poor. Like, I'm so tired of the nonsense. I know, grandfathered in. Okay. So then this is where it gets gross. Okay. So then now Aubrey and Vylana have been on the rocks, which is sad, right? Any relationship that is very like divine and aligned seeming, to then start hitting those rocky points. And then they've put themselves in a position to be a figure of a power couple in the spiritual space, that it does put this pressure on them to kind of have to hold it together and keep putting on the act. And they do all of these retreats and relationship courses and things on devotion and the fit for service and like the calling in the one type of stuff. So now they really need to hold it together because they've got retreats booked out for how long, and they do need to hold their relationship together and still put this act on, even if it is falling apart, which is not a great, that's a bad place to be in. So this girl, Alana, comes in, and they are like both using Alana as like a relationship therapist from the way they're talking about it. Because Vylana's like, yeah, Alana was there for me throughout all these hard times and through all of the stuff with Aubrey. And then Aubrey's like, yeah, when me and Alana were cuddling at night, and she's such a great cuddler, she never once tried to make me break up with Vylana. And that just shows her purity. And then he goes on a rant about purity, which was so gross because, and so I talk about this in my book Cannot Included, which I know some of you've gotten. So in one chapter, I talk about kind of this obsession with purity and virginity and youngness and being underage and being underdeveloped, this fascination that is part of our culture and is very like programmed into men. And you see this very clearly when Aubrey's talking about like, oh, Alana's so pure. Her purity, this is the type of purity that men fight wars for. This is what men want to protect. Purity, purity. And it's like Brittany Bento in her video about this made a really good point, is that Alana is a human. She is not this pure being. She's a person. She's multifaceted. She has a shadow, and he's almost stripping her of her shadow. And then when I was listening to it, I was like, ugh, this is exactly what every polygamist says when they're adding in a new, younger wife. This is what Warren, what's his name? I wrote it down. Warren Jeffs, with his 79 wives, to the point that they kept getting younger and younger to like the age of like 14 with the polygamy thing. And why John Smith and the Mormonism stuff back in the day was this same thing. This is the same thing that happened with the Children of God. This is the same thing that happened with the Nexium cult, is having all of these women wasn't enough, that then they started needing someone more pure, and they start going towards younger. And Aubrey is like really projecting onto this girl her purity when she's just a person. And they're stripping her the ability to be a full person. And, hearing Alana speak, she's using their language. She's using, you said she was Helen of Troy in her past life. Right, exactly. Exactly. And so, you know, Alana is using the same edited language of like divine alignment, purposeful, being seen for my true self, and all of these things, which is still this manipulative language that is like stripping this girl the ability to accept that she's in a fucking throuple. Like, so if this girl Alana speaks out of alignment, then they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're not evolved to hang out with us. Oh, you're just not evolved. You're not there yet." So, it was gross that she's having to use the same edited language, and they're like, "Oh, she helps us both so much with our marriage issues." Yeah, because if she says anything that is out of alignment, you guys are gonna demonize her as being less spiritually evolved than you, because you guys have created this story that if you're not willing to share your partner, you're not spiritually evolved enough, and you haven't healed enough, and you haven't fixed enough of your trauma, or you haven't like all of this shit. So it's like they're pushing this girl to also be in this mentality. And now the other thing that's crazy is they talk about they went on the first date and then they went on the second date. The sister wives. Yeah, the sister wives thing is always happening with this like purity thing. And so they talk about how they brought Alana on the second date, and then they bring up the God bomb. So I wish they would have said more about the God bomb thing. And when I looked it up, there's not a lot of decisive information about it online. So Aubrey says that him and Vylana have created a plant medicine ceremony, which is a concoction of multiple plant medicines, undisclosed, where the God bomb, so they ask Alana if she's willing to do the God bomb. So she does. So they get this girl on drugs, right? I'm such a supporter of plant medicine. You know, ayahuasca changed my life. I'm so grateful for it. Not to diminish these things to call them drugs, but you can use them in a way that basically makes them like drugs. If you're like doing these ceremonies all the time, then you're just fucking high. And it's like using the word like psychonaut again, the edited language. I was high as fuck. Like, just say that. Because he talks about one time that he was like, as a psychonaut, you have to break through the threshold. And then that threshold was such an insane amount of mushrooms. Say it. You were wrecked. You got too high. It's not a psychonaut breaking through thresholds. It's like you were fucking high on mushrooms, dude. Use English because you're fooling these women in front of you. You're fooling this doctor that you're paying probably many thousands of dollars to, but you're not fooling everybody that watched this podcast to the point that he had to turn off the comments. And so they get this girl, Alana, to do the God bomb. And then they say that this plant medicine ceremony, that basically what happens is that they do energy work on the person, and that they do sound healing, and that they do body work on the person. What type of body work? Because we already know half the time when men start doing body work, they're all up in the womb space. Like, I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of the bullshit. And so obviously the body work is like, oh, your womb needs clearing. So they do this ceremony on her. So I tried to look it up. Like, what is this God bomb? What is this concoction of plant medicine? And I mean, that is a little bit, manipulative. And of course, this girl is all down to do it. But it's also like that is a little manipulative if like you're giving someone. Now, what I found online, it said there's no like official information of what the God bomb is, but other people who have facilitated the God bomb with them, which is like these other people that they like people that they work with, and they say that it's, or they've mentioned ayahuasca mixed with iboga and mixed with something else. So it's like, first of all, I'm not a fan of mixing the plant medicines in that way because each one of these are a different vibration, different energy, and is a spirit of its own. So then piling them on. And then also the other thing is, doing these ceremonies, you have to like, part of the reason, like if you really look into like the ayahuasca stuff, part of the reason why you want to go to like very tried and true shamans or facilities is because of this like hollowing out process. And like the ego of the shaman or the facilitator is very prominent in that space. And so people like, especially the Shipibo stuff, like when I did it at Solterra and they did the Shipibo method, they are really like hollowed out of ego. It's not so open. It's not that they're open to everything. It's actually that they've really stripped so many layers of themselves to be just like almost like a naked vessel for spirit versus a completely open vessel. And in ceremony, you do need to secure an energetic space. And this is why you can't just do plant medicines willy-nilly, as they would say. So we have this falling apart marriage that's got a ton of shit going on. And that's the facilitators doing it on the girl that they're trying to get in their pants. It just sounds like a terrible setup for this situation. And as you know, the information that comes through in plant medicine takes a lot of time to integrate. You said, but Aubrey is special. Yeah. Aubrey is special. He can gobble all the plant medicine at once every single day. Right. Isis told him to. You said, exactly. Lots in your group fell for Don Diego, and he did get corrupted. I don't know who Don Diego is, but there's a lot of situations of stuff like this where if there is also like sexual tension between the person facilitating the medicine and the person on the medicine is a very dangerous environment as well. So, this is another thing that is in the mix. On top of this, the editing of the words, on top of the goddess Isis telling him to impregnate both of them, of course, on top of God telling him to go on Raya. You said a setup, sometimes demons can come through to trick you. Yeah, so now I don't know how I feel about like demons coming in to trick people, but people's own inner demons for sure. 1,000%. 1,000%. Your own worst nightmare can come in those spaces, which is why you said, yeah, the true shamans and healers are humble and trustworthy. Right. I agree. Trickster entities come through. Yeah, I do believe the trickster entities. For me, I feel the word demon is a little strong, but I do think that there's obviously trickster energy because look, a human can be a trickster. So of course anything on any plane of existence can be trickster like. Um yeah, and then the doctor validating him. Exactly. Let me look at some of my notes. Oh, okay. Let's talk about Josh, okay? Somebody put Josh on the mic right now. I don't wanna hear another thing about this relationship unless Josh speaks. So, Josh, who I don't know who Josh is. I only know who Josh is because of the drama and the gossip, you know? And so, one of the big things that Aubrey continues to bring up in this podcast, which by the way, Vylana bursts into tears so many times throughout this podcast, and she's obviously in pain. And he literally shows no fucking emotion for it. He's giddy and hyped up and like, oh, I got my hot chicks. And it's like, you literally have no emotion for your wife's pain. But everybody watching is like, this is gut wrenching to watch this. So, like, everybody watching is feeling it, but he's seeing it right in front of his face. And the doctor keeps talking about, like, oh, Vylana, like, when Vylana talks, first of all, he cuts her off all the time, but he doesn't cut off Aubrey. So he cuts off Vylana many times in the middle of her thoughts. And he also makes like jokes throughout her saying really heartfelt stuff. The doctor's a fucking douchebag. And then, like, as Vylana's bursting into tears, at no point does Aubrey like acknowledge her pain. At no point does he acknowledge it. He just keeps talking about this like giddiness of the relationship and like this is the new way and like it's so like disingenuous. And so Vylana's energy is very like smaller, closed off in this podcast. And she is a big force. She is this like talented, beautiful, big presence. And when you look at a lot of her older videos, she is this like huge goddess like big energy. But in this, she's like making herself smaller. And now, as you kind of look through some of her videos over these last year, it is interesting that she is like making herself smaller. So in this video, or the thing that they used to like announce it is uh they're at Burning Man. So it's Aubrey and Alana, and then Vylana and Josh. And it's a neon sign that says separation is an illusion. God. Using the concept of oneness to get your dick hard. I can't. To get come on. So then Aubrey uses the example that like, oh, everybody's saying this is for the man's pleasure, but Vylana had a lovership because the edited language, they won't just say a side piece. And so this guy Josh, now I missed it, but when they first posted this before they turned the comments off, someone was like, "Oh my god, did you see Josh's comment?" And I did not see Josh's comment. And he said something from someone else. I didn't see it myself. Something along the lines of like, "Oh, like I wish it didn't need to end," or something like that. Um, so what happened with Josh? Put Josh on the mic. That's who I want to hear. Get Dr. Mark off there and get Josh on the mic. So then when they kind of explain the Josh situation, because he's using it as such a big, like, justifier of everybody's backlash. And he's like, but Vylana had a boyfriend, but he won't call it a boyfriend. He'll call it a lovership because he can't handle that. Because we already know with Whitney, his ex, he couldn't handle that. He collapsed. Is Josh in the room with us? I wish Josh was in the room with us. Get on the mic, Josh. So Josh, when we hear the situation of how this unraveled, Vylana keeps saying, Aubrey was my wingman. Aubrey was my wingman. And basically, Aubrey's the one that set it up. That Vylana expressed that she thought Josh was cute. Aubrey reached out to Josh and set up Josh and Vylana. This shit is giving so toxic. Now, I've talked about my shit a bit. You know, I've lived a very sexually adventurous life. I've done the swinging thing in relationships. It doesn't work. I've talked about it a lot in the past too. I've never done the full poly thing because I'm just too unhealed for that. I'm just too, I have too much traumas. Or as Vylana was saying, this body has a lot of trauma, like the editing of the language. And so then it ends with Josh. And one thing that really pissed me off watching this podcast too is, yeah, it's because he's controlling and he's meddling in everything. He had to do it. And so Vylana is like, she never really had the desire to go outside of the relationship sexually. But when he set her up with Josh, it helped her to feel more comfortable with the Alana relationship because then she realized, like, oh, I can still love Aubrey and enjoy this other person. So it's almost like even more manipulation, right? Because he's the one who set it up. And then after that, now she understands how it doesn't take away from her. And then the other thing. So at that point, Aubrey says, and I don't know, this is up to my interpretation. This is how I took it. But Aubrey says, yeah, well, how does it feel, you know, if your girl is like sleeping with another man and she's doing doggy style and she's doing oral, and that's about as much as I can handle. You are trying to get another woman pregnant, and that's as much as you can handle. So what does that mean? Vylana and Josh are not allowed to do anal per Aubrey? Is that what you're saying? Or am I jumping to conclusions in this? Is this on the podcast? They say this all on the podcast. I'm literally just summarizing the 2-hour podcast. And so what? That's where he draws the line? What does he mean? He's like, "Oh, they can, like, have sex and oral, but that's as much as I can handle." So what do you mean? You said you're holding your pearls. I literally wanted to smash my TV when I saw that. You're trying to get another woman pregnant, and you're worried about Vylana's ass? Like, let it be. You about to have a baby with 2 people because the goddess Isis told you so. Right, right. Vylana married Aubrey, in his words, after he got rid of the other women. I know. So when and so now, not to be messy, but I'm already messy here, right? I'm already in the thick of it. So I start looking through Josh's stuff. I'm like, what's the deal with Josh? And Josh's girlfriend. Now I don't know what the time frame is. Josh's girlfriend, seemingly before this happened, was the activation vibrations girl. Now I don't follow her, so I don't know much about her, but I recognized her in his videos. I said, "What? This is juicy. This keeps getting juicier. Now we got more people in the mix. Who else is in the orgy? I mean, so I'm like, damn, this girl's man is in the lovership with this throuple with the hold on, cross over the carry the one. Okay, so I saw a post that was like the funniest post about this. So you guys know that I really hated the Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan thing. Like I literally like almost like I almost glitched out of this matrix when Terrence Howard went on Joe Rogan and said 1 times 1 equals 2. And the whole spiritual community was like attacking me for saying he was stupid. Hold on. I have to validate my identity. Okay. So, and you guys saw when I did that Terrence Howard video, I got so much backlash because 1 times 1 equals 1. But Terrence Howard math, who he says he figured out math, the true math, was 1 times 1 equals 2. And someone posted that this radical monogamy is the Terrence Howard math. I was like, this is 1 times 1 equals 2. This is radical monogamy. 1 times 1 equals 2. Okay, yes. And monogamy of more than 2. You were with me glitching out on the Terrence Howard stuff, right? Carry the one exactly. What this ain't adding up. So I don't know. Now, okay. So now there's this whole group of people that work with Aubrey, right? Matias DeStefano, Blue, his other ex-girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend's boyfriend, all of these different people that work with Aubrey. And a lot of them are obviously not gonna comment on this, and a lot of them are also, like, defending in the comments. But it's also interesting is that when someone like Aubrey has really platformed so many people and had all of them do these retreats together and workshops together and platforms these people, now this gives him more power to not be called out. Because now all of these people who are in the spiritual community can't really say that they disagree with this, or the more that he gets out of line, because we're already seeing cult leader light, right? We're already seeing diet cult go on right now. So cult zero, right? So they're drinking the cult zero Kool-Aid. And so you said, oh, the comments are turned off. Exactly, because they couldn't handle the heat. And I haven't seen anybody say anything positive about this except from people in their friend group. And so with this, we already see this inching into what we've seen with many actual cults. Will it get to a level of cult? Probably not. But then all of these other people that are in that group who benefit from the workshops, who profit from his platform, who do the fit for service or this or that or all these other programs that they do, it silences these people from being able to call out toxic behavior now. And now you have the validation of all of these other figures that are in the space, which, like, you know, I'm adjacent to some of these people. Some of these people I know peripherally, some of these people I know slightly, some of these people are friends of friends. And like, but then it's like, what? Am I supposed to not say something about it? Like, do I have to say something about it? No, not really. But I also see where this is going. Like, oh, Aubrey said that him and Vylana went through the comments before they were turned off. Yeah, and then Aubrey was saying the reason he turned off the comments is because it was so much negativity at them that something physical happened in their home. Oh, the physical manifestation of something happening in your home is everybody else, right? So Vylana needs to get over her wounds. Everybody needs to get over their wounds, but for Aubrey, it's because of outside hatred. It's because of outside forces. It's not about him. It's not a reflection of him. It's everybody else needs to understand they're not there yet. typical also cult behavior, right? Is that cult behaviors make every single person believe, oh, this is your pain. This is your issue. This is your thing that needs healing. But when it happens to them, it's they're being attacked. They're against them. People don't want the truth. People aren't ready for this. But when they talk about everyone in their camp, it's always, oh, you have unhealed traumas, that this is showing you something, but not this is showing me something. We see this in like every single cult documentary. You said, I think it shows a higher level of discernment, which is promising. I agree. I really think that this was actually an important thing, that this whole like, it really was nice to see like kind of like everybody who's not in their immediate friend group or like dependent on them or like peripheral benefits from them or does business with them. Pretty much everybody else was like, what the fuck? This is some bullshit. So it was actually nice to see everybody calling it out. Yeah, spiritual superiority complex. Exactly. And also, too, like something physical happened in his home because of all the hate comments. Now, I don't know what that means because he didn't elaborate, but that's why he said he turned the comments off, was because something happened. Now, if you've read The Divine Matrix by Greg Braden, he talks about how there was this couple who was fighting, and they talk about how like things manifest in the physical that are happening in the internal state. So a lot of times we see this with illness, beliefs and things lead to illness. But then in the Divine Matrix, they also talk about it happening in your physical environment. So they say that there was this couple that are fighting, that are like in a super toxic situation in their relationship, but they were like repressing the truth. And then what happened in their home was the septic tank like exploded and the whole house got filled with shit because they weren't looking at their shit. So I don't know. I'd like to know what physically happened in Aubrey Marcus's home, because if it was something, but from the hate comments, not from what's going on in them, but everybody else needs to reflect. Everybody else has more healing to do. He bypassed the polyamory wound by proposing so fast to Vylana and then making it happen by breaking her and the embodiment of that. Yeah, exactly. He didn't really deal with the polyamory thing, why he needed so many partners. So I had to go look at his ex-girlfriend Whitney's page today because I was like, where does she stand with this right now? Because I know she was friends with all of these people too. Um, and she wasn't directly talking about it, but she basically was saying like, um, you'll end up in therapy if you like are lying to yourself. And then all the comments were like about Aubrey, and she was engaging with them and liking them and saying like, yep, it's crazy. I can't believe watching this. Like, this is bullshit. This is so then she was really like saying that she doesn't stand for this. Because she already went again, and he's talked about on these podcasts that like the reason he was looking for polyamory was because Whitney wasn't really the one. But then when he met Vylana, she was the one, and that's why he doesn't need polyamory anymore. So now him bringing it back, it's the same thing. He's going to do the same thing to Vylana if she doesn't leave first. Oh, you said she posted on her stories in support of them last week. Oh, that's interesting because I just saw a video of her saying all this stuff in the comments, agreeing with all of these people talking shit about Aubrey. So that's interesting. I thought she was supporting him. Okay, let me look up some of my other notes. Oh, okay. Um yeah, probably the saddest part of the podcast, the part that like really kind of fucked me up because it's a wound that I have as well, is so when he leaves the temple of Isis in Egypt and tells Vylana that he needs to now impregnate her and her mini me, that she, is upset. She tries to rip off her wedding ring and throw it in the Nile. She can't get the ring off. They fought the rest of the day. And she starts crying. And she says, because every time she feels safe, the rug is pulled out under her. And that is just so fucking real and so true. And, you know, I think most of us who watched were hoping that she would have just left that day. But then she talks about how she had this life in Egypt that she didn't. And she said it in an Instagram post later that she had a past life with him in Egypt, that they didn't have a family together, and that she still has a wound from that. Like, nah, girl, you went to the temple of Isis And if anything communicated with him that was outside of his own ego, if there was any divine message, it was for the cycle to end of whatever the fuck happened in Egypt 10,000 years ago, the last time he did this, probably with concubines. But it's so sad because it's like he doesn't acknowledge her pain at all in this podcast. And it's like for him to see his wife be like, I finally felt safe and the rug was ripped out under me. And basically, are doing the thing that every other person has done to me, and the one thing that you promised you would never do to me, and the one wound that has hurt me more than anything, now you're doing to me. And now you're making me believe that I need to heal more in order to accept this wound. And now another thing that she says in that discussion is she talks about the honesty, that this is the most honest relationship she's ever been in. And that the honesty of him saying that he wants to be with other women is like healthier than lying. And I also talk about this in my book, Cannot Included, which you should get, which I talk about it in this chapter called The Wicked Witch. And it's about the other woman. And it's about this pinning of women against each other. And it goes back to like fairy tale archetypes of this and then goes through personal stories. And I talk about my personal story with that same exact rationalization because I have this same wound of like every time feeling safe in a relationship, then the rug getting pulled out, like that because that pattern has happened to me, that years ago when I was like 23, I was dating this guy and there was always these other woman issues in my past relationships. So then I'm dating this guy and I'm working with him in a similar situation because now there's a dependency on me keeping that job. And then similar to like Vylana, where, I mean, way worse for Vylana. Mine was just a job. And then I find out that he is in a relationship with the other girl that we're working with. And I confront him about it. And he is like, well, yeah, I have multiple girlfriends. And because I was in a position that I was in kind of my dream job and I didn't want to lose it, and I was young and I never had someone be so honest. Every other relationship, they lied and would gaslight. So for him to just say, like, yeah, this is it, then I actually at that moment said the same thing that Vylana says to herself in this podcast, which is like, oh, wow, it's actually refreshing that like this person is being that honest. And it's actually refreshing instead of like getting flat out cheated on. They're just telling me. And that's safer than having to wonder. And this is so fucked up. Like that's so fucked up. So when I saw Vylana saying that shit, I was like, oh. And it's literally in the book. So it's interesting that like I tell that whole story in the book and about like how I actually convinced myself at that time that that was better than being cheated on when it's just cheating with extra steps. So like seeing her say that was so painful. Like, and so many women felt the pain. Everybody but Aubrey felt the pain. And fucking Dr. Mark, who like is giving sociopathic energy. Now, what are some other things? Okay, yeah, him with the psychonaut. Like, just say you're on drugs all the time. Okay. Stop with the edited language. If you're high on psychedelics all the time, it's drugs. It's beyond using it in a ceremonial way. It's beyond using it for healing. So the other thing too was, the spiritual jargon. Another thing that Vylana talked about in the post after all the backlash was how this is part of her soul's mission to have Aubrey's children. It is very common for people to meet future children, whether that's true or not, in plant ceremonies because it is something that is out there in the ethers. And sometimes people are not even meeting an actual real future child. It's just showing something. I think even Aubrey says that on the podcast that sometimes these things are like a book, a tarot deck, a creation of some sort together. That it's not always meaning an exact baby when this information comes through. He even says that. But she says in her Instagram post that like that it's her soul's mission and it's like the greatest service to humanity. And like, I'm so sick of spiritual people thinking that it's like their ego. And I really do like Vylana, but like her thinking that her having Aubrey Marcus's children is a service to humanity. Like, I'm tired of it. Same with the twin flame bullshit. Like, people think that, like, their relationship is here to save humanity. Like, even too, I'm gonna do some videos, short form videos about, like, I don't agree with a lot of the starseed stuff and a lot of the volunteer stuff and a lot of these things anymore because it's really just, like, spiritual ego to think that you are the chosen one or this lineage or this sperm or this DNA or this child or this and that is here to save humanity, is here to have this mission of a greater purpose, and this is your great contribution. I'm sick of it. Like, I can't take it anymore. Like, all of this stuff is very, like, eye-opening because I saw some people's reactions to the podcast as well, and a lot of them were, like, saying, like, it really, like, kind of knocked them upside the head of a lot of this spiritual jargon of, like, "Whoa, this is nonsense, what these people are saying." Let me see what else. Do I have any other notes on this? Mhm, mhm. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I wrote down some, some quotes. I wish I would've wrote more quotes down because it was honestly like the word salad and the spiritual jargon, but, like, one of them was saying I think it was I don't know if it was the doctor or if it was Aubrey that said, "It's not poly because it's not the moving in and out of partners. This is deep exclusivity." Deep exclusivity. It's sounding cult. It's sounding cult. And then, also, as, Aubrey is, like, fawning over Alana's imagined purity, which God forbid she steps out of line once. God forbid Alana has a bad day. God forbid Alana doesn't feel like being their relationship coach one day. God forbid Alana gets jealous once. Like, God forbid. She'll be shunned out, be an SP like in Scientology so quick. But then the doctor interjects and he's like, "Yes, because then a new goddess steps into the field." A new goddess steps into the field. I can't. I can't take it. You said, "Why is Alana going along with this?" I mean, I don't blame her. She's 20 something years old. She just got out of a relationship with some rich dude who was like doing the whole luxury life, and now she gets to do the whole luxury life in a spiritual way. Now it's like Egypt and, doing ayahuasca in Peru and Burning Man and all the stuff, and it's like yeah, when the old goddess gets too old. Exactly, right, and what was fucked up too is that, like, Aubrey did this whole, like, admiration post for Vylana for her birthday, like, a year ago when she turned, like, 36, I think, and it was about, like, women aging beautifully and women getting older is beautiful, and then all the comments were like, "But she's only 36. Like, you're making a really big fuss about aging for 36." But then now he has the purity coming in, and how does that make Vylana feel, right? Like, oh, she's pure, and what, Vylana's the fucked up one, the crazy one, the dysfunctional one? This is what happens. If these men, because it's not just Aubrey, it's a part of the culture, and men are programmed to have this fixation with purity. If they actually wanted to protect purity, like he said, or honor purity, they wouldn't want to fuck it. They wouldn't want to drug it up. They wouldn't want to do these things. So say what it is. You want to conquer purity. You want to own purity. You want purity to be tainted with you and your seed. Be honest. And the thing that I talk about in the book is about this Lolita complex, how the whole world freaked out about the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. But, like, oh my god, they were pimping out 17-year-olds? No. We just have a whole barely legal culture. We just have all these types of, videos online that are geared towards the fetishization of making women look younger. We only have an entire industry that tells women not to age, to shave off their body hair to look younger. We only have a whole entire freaking system that obsesses over purity and teenage girls and virginity, but now you're shocked because rich people are doing it? Like, be fucking honest with yourself. Half of the people who are obsessed with the Jeffrey Epstein, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files, release the flight logs, are propping up the same men who are on podcasts talking about purity. It's the same pipeline. And really, this Aubrey Marcus situation, and I hate to say this, I truly hate to say this, makes me have more respect for Andrew Tate, and you guys know how much I hate Andrew Tate. It literally makes me have more respect for Andrew Tate, because at least he's saying it. At least he's saying he wants 50 girlfriends and that he doesn't respect women. At least it's honest. This is why Trump won the election, because at least he's honest about being shitty at times and being selfish and being self-serving. When they asked Trump about not paying taxes, he said, change the laws. Why would I pay taxes if I don't have to? Then change the laws. That is why Andrew Tate is more honest, because Andrew Tate is like, yeah, I want to profit off of women. Yeah, I want 50 girlfriends. Yeah, I want them pure. I want them virgins, because he's a pervert and a creep. But then Aubrey does it with the lovership, divine unions. A goddess walks in. A goddess comes into the field. The purity. Oh, this is the type of soul, like, oh, please. Right. Not bringing up the Tate of it all. It's true. I had to go there. Yeah, the language is like they're saving the world and just being hedonistic and self-absorbed, which is fine. Be hedonistic and self-absorbed, but just be honest. Be like Andrew Tate. Just fucking say it. Right, the hand on the heart. I know. They always do this. I'm tired of this. I'm so tired of it all. Yeah, muse, writer, alchemist, lover, whatever you create, use your truth. Yeah, that's her Instagram bio, right? I'm so glad we see through the bullshit too. I agree. When you learned Aubrey was part of the Fleshlight company, it all made sense. Yeah, exactly. His dad is the creator of the Fleshlight. He's the heir to the Fleshlight. Right, what do we expect? Stop. Yeah, no, it's true. Exactly. He's the heir of the Fleshlight empire. I beg your finest pardon. I should have started with that. I thought everybody knew that. The Fleshlight Prince. Right. I know. I had to. I had to, you guys, because you know what? I'm so tired of this, all of it. Like, you guys see when I was, in Bali, let me turn off these things. When I was in Bali and, like, doing that healing with that woman just on the floor on a dirty mattress, she got some statues on a cinder block, she got a bowl of oil. It was just so, like, eye-opening to me that, like, none of this shit matters. All the branding is a distraction. All of this stuff in the spiritual community online is literally a distraction from the truth, from the real spirituality, from the real purpose, from the real path. Am I dabbling in the distraction? Oh, hell yeah, this is juicy. This is juicy. This is juicier than, uh, The Real Housewives of Austin. That's what it says, right? The Real Housewives of Austin. That's what we need next. We need, juicy, juicy. Listen, I'm not above drama. I'm not above gossip. It get The tea is hot. The tea is a second-degree burn. The tea is piping. It's scalding. The tea is tea. The tea is ayahuasca, actually. Mixed with iboga, mixed with ketamine, mixed with mushrooms, mixed with bufo, or whatever the fuck a god bomb is, right? The tea is plant medicine. What's funny is that they thought people would fall for it. Yeah. But you know why? Because everybody's been falling for it so long. So, like, the track record, and then he's also surrounded by, when you're the heir of the Fleshlight, you've been surrounded by yes men throughout your life because you've always been rich. Like, the tea is psychedelic. It's a psychedelic tea. Yeah, it's about influencing and marketing and Mad Men advertising and spirituality realm instead of actual healing and spirituality. Yeah, it is. Oh, it's ketamine and cannabis. Oh god. Mhm. That's true. He's so entitled. Oh, you Googled what a fleshlight is. Oh, sorry. What is a fleshlight? You don't know what the fleshlight is? I'm gonna get banned on TikTok. I just got out of being banned on TikTok. So I don't think I could give you, but it's a pocket vagina. It's a pocket vagina. Yeah, a VG in a can. Oh my god, yeah. It's a, it's a, it's a device, a pleasure device. I don't think it vibrates. I think it just has, suction. Yeah, it's a pocket kitty, yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. This has really, see, but listen, I'm speaking English. I don't need to say, "What is a fleshlight?" It's a divine vessel depicting one of the most beautiful organs of the goddess vessel, and it's a way to connect with my divine masculine and to overcome any urges that I have when my 1, 2, or 3, or 4th girlfriend is unavailable. Then I have one right here in my pocket whenever I need to get, what did he say? I am a stallion of the Eros energy. What did he say? He's a raging stallion of Eros energy. Like, I can't. It's a pocket goddess. And then a new goddess comes into the field in the form of a can. And it's the most perfect goddess that ever was. Oh no, I got a restriction. Oh no. I got the TikTok restriction. I actually went pretty far without saying it, right? Lovership in a can. Oh, that Mark Gaffney. Now, I have heard that Mark Gaffney has, like, some allegations of inappropriate behavior against him. I didn't get super into that. The bots have found me. The bots are after me, causing things in my physical manifestation. The cacao is piping hot. It's a pure goddess without all of the jealousy and the trauma and the wounds. It's a pure goddess without abandonment issues, without jealousy. It's a silicone goddess. Okay. Have you seen the fake Diddy witnesses on YouTube? No, I haven't. I've been so not giving a fuck about the Diddy situation. Um, yeah, without boundaries. Smart enough to only watch YouTube because TikTok is always on some, yeah, I know. Okay, well, I think I've talked about this topic longer than it deserves. I had to fully get this off my chest, and that's good too because, Mr. Ultra doesn't wanna hear about it. He doesn't want anything to do with my Aubrey Marcus gossip. He doesn't let me get into it. So, I got this fully off of my chest. He hates the gossip. Once I start talking about other people, then he's like, "Oh, why are you in other people's business?" I'm like, "Because the tea is pulsing through my veins." Um, yeah, thanks for your service. Thank you. You said that's a good man. He is a good man. So I've come here to talk about it with you guys and to give you guys all of the juicy, juicy, juicy details. Oh, you're going to get the book. Thank you, Beverly. There's a difference between sacred and not sacred masculine. Aw, and you said Mr. Ultra is sacred masculine. He is. He's so great. I love him. The color you're wearing today. Thank you. Yes, me and my color season being more in the colors that I should be wearing. I've been enjoying not wearing only black. You love gossip, sue me. Now you have to go find a podcast, I guess. Yeah. I mean, even though I have told you all the juicy details, I still suggest you go watch it for yourself because I still suggest it's worth the watch. And then maybe watch some people's reactions to it. Watch Brittany Bento's reaction to it because it's juicy. And there's still so many things that you're going to see that I didn't even mention. How did you find out your color palette? So I went to ChatGPT. I uploaded a bunch of photos of myself. And then I also got the color, like, the HTML color of my root and my hair. And then I got the HTML color of my eyebrows, the HTML color of my eye, and then the HTML color of my skin in multiple places. And I said, this is my skin tone range. This is my eye color range. This is my hair color range. These are photos of me. This is the HTML of my colors. I put myself in multiple different lightings and I asked ChatGPT to do a color analysis for me. So I think it was right. Some people said that it was not right. I think that mine was right, but I also did a lot of photos and I put multiple areas of my hair color, the HTML of color. So like, if like you are creating something in like Photoshop and like white is a certain code, black is a certain code. Every single color has its own color code on like HTML colors. Look on TikTok how to get it's a hex value. Yeah. So oh, colors on point thing. Still love you in black, but great to see in other colors. Right. I still love me in black too. I wore it the other day and I was like, she's bad. She's ready to go tear up radical monogamy on the internet. Um, you said you saw the video of your hand in front of a bunch of colors and compared screenshots. It's so real. Yeah, I don't know if I have the eye to be able to see the nuance of color. So that's why I had to ask. Um, are you off to do the God bomb next? Yeah, exactly. Let me try the God bomb. I'll be the decider of that. So you guys, though, I am going to Monroe Institute. So I am going to have an out of body experience. It won't be a God bomb. It'll be an OBE, hopefully. So, but I don't know. If it's ketamine, I wouldn't do it. The God bomb. Arigato. Thank you. It's like summer camp. I know, I'm so excited. But I'll keep you guys updated when I'm going. Okay, guys. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here for the goss. Like the live while you're here. Make sure you hit the like button. And we'll talk about something more important next week. Let me know what you want to do. Leave in the comments if you want any other topics that you want me to cover next week. Where can you get my book? On Amazon. It's called Ken Not Included. And I think you'll love it. I think you'll love it. It's about being a woman. It's about the social programming of women. It's about all of these different areas of life that we go through. It has my personal stories. It has some funny personal stories, some really messed up personal stories. It's very unapologetic and like my own personal stories and my opinions, like is very unapologetic. Like there's going to be some stuff that triggers people. There's going to be, some stuff that is like, I'm not sugarcoating my experience. And I haven't told you guys on TikTok yet. Oh, you started the book, Krista? Oh my God, yay. So, you guys on TikTok, Ken Not Included. My book is on Amazon. It's about the social programming that created the modern woman, similar to a plastic Barbie, and basically has shaped and molded us into thinking who we think we are. And this is about deprogramming what it really means to be a woman. Oh, thank you. Who's my next podcast guest? Speaking of, it's actually going to be my ex-boyfriend, Jim Norton, who is talked about in the book, and I have a big juicy reveal. So, um, you're really going to want to read the book after you hear this reveal on the podcast. I was supposed to put it out while I was in Bali, but it's a big juicy reveal about something that happened during our relationship, actually before our relationship, that I've never publicly said. And then I talk about it in the book and I say it on the podcast. So maybe that's the reason why I've kind of delayed on posting that episode. Where's the podcast? My podcast is on YouTube, the newest episodes, and then on Spotify, Apple Podcast. If you watch on Spotify, you can actually watch the video podcast. So I suggest either watching YouTube or Spotify because it's in video. But if you'd like to watch other places and just listen, you could do that wherever you want. Spotify is good because you can watch the video and then click to audio if you're like doing something. So go check those out. What a plug teaser. Oh, it's juicy. I'm one to talk. I should stop talking about everybody else because I'm the one with the juicy tea. Okay. Well, that's all I'll say. This is why you pay for YouTube Premium, no ads. Cool. Okay. Well, come on over. We have a lot of really interesting interviews and a lot of interesting topics that are talked about on YouTube. So, come on over. JK Ultra on YouTube, over from TikTok. You're here for the tea. Oh, you guys are going to be here for the tea, the TT. It's hot like this tea. Okay. Anyway, guys, I will see you guys on Thursday on the podcast and then see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.